Hello, once again it's Mike with My Plumber Heating and Cooling. Today's installment on what's in your water, we will discuss low pH or acid water conditions. When you have acidic water, typically you would know so if you have copper pipes, because you would be suffering from green stains, turquoise colored stains in your sinks and fixtures, greenish blue stain, typically described as turquoise in color. That stain is, by the way, copper from your copper water lines being dissolved from the acid in the water and being redeposited in your drains. So if you have those stains, they should be a very real concern to you, because your pipe is being eroded from the inside out by the water itself and by the chemistry of the water itself. Another way you might be aware of having an acid water condition is through multiple repairs. If you suffer from pinholes, and you have suffered from a number of pinholes where the pipes actually leak for no apparent reason, it's not a leak at a joint, it's not a leak at a connection, it may not be a leak anywhere near a valve or anything else, the leak just pops up, there's a small hole in the pipe. That is referred to as a pinhole, and pinholes typically occur in water lines because the water has a low pH or the water is acidic. So today's discussion will be about low pH water, acid water. The easiest way to understand this is know that acid water has a hunger. It wants to consume something. In the case of water conditioning, what we do is, with the understanding that acid water has a hunger, you have to remember that water is the universal solvent, so to some extent it dissolves every substance that it comes in contact with. Now, depending on whether that substance is hard or soft, it may dissolve less of some substances than others. But copper in a copper water line, for instance, is a pretty soft metal. So copper gives itself up to acid in the acid water, in the low pH water, quite readily. So for that reason, from a plumbing standpoint, it's a concern. So knowing that water is the universal solvent, and knowing that acid water has a hunger and that it wants to consume something, what we do in the form of water conditioning is give it something to consume. Typically we put in a vessel about 10 inches in diameter, 54 inches tall, sometimes 13 inches in diameter, sometimes a little taller, depending on the water test results. What we're putting in that vessel is a food-grade refined limestone product. We are giving that water something to consume. As I said, acid water has a hunger. It wants to consume something. Should you give it something to consume, that hunger is then satisfied. The water is no longer hungry, it's no longer corrosive, it's no longer aggressive, and in that function, after the water leaves the acid neutralizer, the water is pH correct and will no longer consume pipes, plumbing, things of that nature. So that's the simplification of acid neutralization through water conditioning and correcting low pH. You know the stains when you've seen them. You know if we've been out a number of times and effected repairs on your pipes, and in some instances we may have even made recommendations to you. Low pH water, acid water does not correct itself, and in my experience, it's not something that ever changes. Sometimes in water conditioning, there are very few absolutes. Hardness can go up and down, iron can go up and down. Acid water, or water that has an appetite, so to speak, typically maintains that appetite forever. That's been my experience. The pH scale, if we test your water, we're going to give you a reading in pH, stands for potential of hydrogen, on the acidity of the water. It bears mentioning that the pH scale is a logarithmic scale, so 7.5 would be considered ideal. If we test your water and it has a pH of 6.5, that's only one full point, but it's one full point by a multiplier of 10. So if we test your water and it's 6.5, keeping in mind that 7.5 would be considered ideal, if we test your water at 6.5, it is 10 times more acidic than would be considered ideal. Conversely, if we were to test your water and it had a pH of 5.5, that is by a multiplier of 100 or 100 times more acidic than would be considered ideal. So on the pH scale, even small incremental differences are enough to cause copper degradation, staining. The staining in and of itself is a nuisance, but only a nuisance. But having a diminishing or depleting or constantly eroded piping system is a pretty real and legitimate concern. So if you have low pH water, or suspect you have low pH water, I would urge you to give us a call. We'll come out at no charge to you, take a water test, check it for pH, and make recommendations based on the results of that water test. Keep in mind that any water recommendation made to you in regards to water conditioning has no validity unless the water test has been performed. Beyond that, it's guesswork. So anyway, once again, it's Mike, My Plumber Heating and Cooling. If you have any questions, give us a call.
8664 My Plumber. That's 8664 My Plumber. Thanks.